How's it going there, Plan, Organize, and Tutor Tip listeners? This is Eric here with Exclusive Tutoring San Diego. And today's story that I want to talk to you guys about has a lot to do with the SAT and its origins. Now, I just had my presentation yesterday outlining the different processes that, students need to worry about when it comes to their college applications, such as the classes they need to take, extracurriculars, test prep, and the different essays that they have to think about. But when it comes to test prep, one of the things that I really want to point out, and this is information that I want to make sure that all educators alike are aware about, is that there's actually a profit-driven motive behind this nonprofit company, and in doing so, it's led to certain changes and it's led to a certain dynamic with the test that I kind of like to push kids a little bit away from. So, a little background history is I'm actually part of the first class that was administered the 2,400-point SAT. So in the past, before 2005 and 2006, the graduating class of 2006 and everybody before it actually had to, were subject to the 1,600-point test. The 1,600-point test, which they call the verbal and the math section, both worth 800 points, for a combined score of 1,600, were, the standard for college applications. And so at that point, what I really found important was to make sure that I knew exactly the situation with the brand new test. My mom threw me into brand new test prep companies and brand new programs in order for me to learn this new section. Now, as I'm a little bit older now, going back and looking through these different things, and as I have gone through test prep and done my research, what I've actually found is that new edition of the writing section wasn't anything special that the College Board had created. What they kind of did was they took their SAT2 writing section, which was heavily based upon grammar, and threw that as an attachment onto the old SAT. Then they took their verbal section, made it more reading comprehension style and critical reading style, and changed the name of that as well. And then they threw an essay on top for the students to write, and they called this a brand new test and threw it out, and sold brand new books, etc. Now, a lot of parents and students have said that that new 2,400-point test was a little bit unfair because it weighed your reading and writing skills more heavily than it weighed your mathematical abilities. Another thing that they talk about is there's no science section in there, therefore students aren't being tested upon their ability to apply conceptual knowledge of that. Which, on the other hand, the ACT has been a constant and has been administering this the same type of test over the years and hasn't had any major changes such as this. Okay, so the ACT and the SAT again, are both interchangeable tests that are required, but because of the contract that the College Board has with the University of California, it is a little bit more heavily pushed upon those schools and heavily pushed upon here in the West Coast. But that SAT2 section, the writing section that kind of just got thrown onto there, now is kind of being removed. And what the College Board is now saying is that this past test they created for the last 10 years was not an indicative, evaluator of what these high schoolers knew or didn't know. And so now they're going and changing the test again. But, I've been involved with test prep for a while now, and I've been teaching students. And again, because I was my parents actually threw me into PSAT and SAT classes at the lovely grade of 7th grade, actually. And I've had a lot of experience with these companies, and I've actually seen a lot of these different books. Now, when I did my research on the College Board, one thing kind of stuck out to me. Number one is the fact that they've constantly been criticized for the fact that their executives make a lot of money even though they're a nonprofit organization. And I've looked them up, and the thing is their compensation has only gone up since the 2000s. And the thing, again, as a business owner myself, I understand the profit motive here. But as a nonprofit organization, they bring home a lot of money. And a thing is, a nonprofit organization is still run by a head CEO. And if you notice, they've actually changed their CEO twice in these last 15 years. So in doing so, right after they switch their CEO, within 2 to 3 years, one of the best ways for them to make more money is to throw out the old test, bring in a new one, sell brand new books, and force everybody to restructure their curriculum and, profit from it. So what I did notice is that a CEO change occurred about 2 to 3 years before the 2005-2006 change. And again, here in 2012 or 2013, they had another change as well. New CEO was appointed for Collegeboard. And now there's a brand new test being administered as well. The executives of the ACT recently have released a statement condemning the SAT for changing so much, and also for the fact that now it's been very tough for the schools to match up what the scores mean. Because when they changed the old score from 1600 to 24, there was about 2 to 3 years which they needed to gather data to centralize the scores to, have an accurate representation of where students lie. So if you happen to get caught in the crossfire of, one of the first couple groups of students, it's possible your score may have been higher or lower than it actually should have been, because the centered score wasn't calculated accurately just yet. One thing with a big misconception is the fact that in the past, a 700 score out of 800 meant you were already in the top 1% of the entire nation. Anything above a 700 meant that you were actually, one of the brightest. You could only miss, I think, 2 to 3 questions to attain that score or higher. Nowadays, if you have 1 to 2 missed problems on something like the math score or the math SAT2, or sometimes even certain other SAT2 tests as well, the centered score has been adjusted so that actually more students can miss problems and still get an 800 distinction. Due to the number of students taking the test, and also due to the fact that these scores have now finally been centralized to show that, because students may have fallen so far below certain thresholds and scored negatively in a fact that they couldn't place them at the lowest 200-point score. So everybody kind of gets bumped up in a way. If you are confused about that explanation, go ahead and let me know and contact me. We can have a discussion about that a little bit more specifically. But again, so, with that profit motive, combined with the constant changes and the uncertainty as to where scores may lie, now what I do is I actually push my students to try out both tests through practice means, and then decide from there which ones they feel more comfortable with. I found that the SAT now does give more time for fewer problems, but it's become a lot wordier. There's a lot more vocabulary to go through, and the word problems in the math section are more extensive, and in doing so become a little bit trickier when students have to solve for them. And it's just my personal opinion, for my students, that the SAT does not truly have them in mind, and the ACT over the years has been proven to be a fairer test. Now, if a student happens to do better on the SAT, we'll go ahead and prep them for that style of a test. But generally what I've found is that when you compare the scores and when you look at a student's approach to these two different tests, they will do better on the ACT as long as they're given a couple little tips. The SAT takes a lot more training of the mind and training of the style of problems that we may encounter, because it's become more of an IQ type and tricky style test. And in doing so, what they've actually found is the higher, or the students who come from more prominent backgrounds, who may have more money to spend on test prep, generally do end up doing better on those tests because they get the practice that they need. So I hope that, for any educators out there, any test prep tutors, etc. out there, this might have opened your eyes into the test prep world. If you have any questions as to where I got my sources or where I got my information from, go ahead and let me know. I'm very happy to discuss this and to open up a conversation with you guys. And again, all this knowledge is for you to do with as you please, but I hope that you do spread this little story with other people who may be going through the testing process at this point, so they are a little bit more educated as to what they should expect. All right? Well, have a great day, guys. This is Eric with Exclusive Tutoring San Diego. I do my best to put up a podcast at least once a week to give you guys updates for education and little stories about, interactions that I may have had with students and stories that I've heard that may help other parents and other educators out there when it comes to their own kids. So, have a great day, guys. Enjoy your day, and if you have any questions, talk to me at eric@exclusivetutoringsd.com. See you guys.